get this, we were diving into AI today.
Yeah.
And, all that talk about AI costing millions, even billions to develop.
Yeah.
Well, a team at UC Berkeley, they're saying they've basically recreated parts of a top AI model. And get this, they did it for just $30.
Wow, that's like what a couple of coffees cost these days. Right. It's a real David and Goliath situation. Yeah. You have DeepSeek, this company known for these huge, expensive AI models. And they're being challenged by a small research team with like pocket change.
It's wild, and that's what we're going to dig into today. How they did it?
Yeah.
What it could mean for AI's future?
Okay.
So DeepSeek has this model R1-Zero. It's like this giant in the AI world. And the Berkeley team wanted to copy some of its main functions and their secret weapon, a game called Countdown.
Countdown. Yeah, it's basically a math puzzle. They give you numbers. You have to use like plus, minus, times, divide.
Right.
To hit a target number.
That sounds pretty simple.
Yeah, it sounds simple, but they use this game to train their own smaller language model.
So they didn't just like program it with the rules.
No.
They let it figure it out.
Exactly. They let it learn by trying and failing over and over again. What's amazing is that it started with like completely random outputs.
Like just digital gibberish?
Yeah, pretty much like digital gibberish. And through this thing called reinforcement learning, the model started to figure out strategies. It's like watching someone learn to ride a bike. At first, they're wobbly.
Yeah.
They fall off. But they keep practicing and they get better.
I'm picturing that right now.
Yeah, and the Berkeley team gives some really interesting examples of this learning process.
Oh, yeah.
So in one example, the model was working on a countdown problem, and it kept revising its answer over and over again until it got the right solution.
It
was literally learning from its mistakes. And that's where things get really cool because it shows that the model is starting to think like a human.
Solve problems like we would.
Yeah, exactly. There's another example that shows this even better. So the model had to do a multiplication problem.
Okay.
And it used the distributive property, where you break the problem down into smaller steps.
Right, like to make it easier.
Yeah, exactly. It's something we do all the time without even thinking about it.
It is.
So here's this model doing the same thing.
So I've got this smaller model learning, solving problems like a person. But how does that connect to the $30 price tag?
Right. So that's where model parameters come in. These are basically like settings that control how the model learns.
Yeah.
More parameters means the model can be more complex, but it also needs more computing power, which costs more money.
So there's a trade-off there.
Exactly. And the Berkeley team, they experimented with models of different sizes.
So they weren't just using one model the whole time?
No, they started with a small one, 500 million parameters. It could make guesses, but wasn't really learning.
Got it.
Then they went bigger, 1.5 billion parameters. Now the model's getting better, learning from its mistakes. But the real breakthrough came when they went even bigger to between 3 and 7 billion parameters.
So that's sweet stuff.
Exactly. And this is where the cost effectiveness really shines through, even with a relatively small number of parameters.
Yeah.
Their model was finding solutions, revising its answers, and solving the countdown problems.
Wow. And all of that for basically nothing.
For a tiny fraction of what big companies claim to spend, it makes you wonder, how are they doing it?
It does. Is it just a smaller model, or is there something even more clever going on?
Well, I think the choice of Countdown as a training tool is really important. It seems like a basic game, but it makes the model develop very specific skills that are surprisingly good for solving all sorts of problems.
So they're not just teaching it to play a game, they're teaching it to think.
Yeah, in a way, they're using this simple game to teach it, to learn, adapt, and apply logic to solve problems.
It's pretty impressive that they got that level of sophistication with a $30 budget.
It really is. It's a real testament to the ingenuity of this team and what they've been able to achieve.
Makes you wonder, is this like a turning point in AI development? Are we moving away from this idea that bigger is always better? That you need tons of money and computers to make breakthroughs?
It's a really interesting question, right? The Berkeley team's findings, they really challenge what we thought about AI development. And this leads us to kind of a controversy around DeepSeek and what they say about training their AI models.
Right, because if the Berkeley team can do all this with like a tiny model and a budget that couldn't even buy you a nice dinner, it makes you think about the millions or billions that companies like DeepSeek say they're spending.
Exactly. And there's this machine learning expert, Nathan Lambert. He's been publicly saying he doesn't buy DeepSeek's claims.
Really?
Yeah. He says their $5 million figure for training their big model it doesn't tell a whole story.
So, like, there are hidden costs. Like, what kind of things?
Think about it. To train a model that big, you need a ridiculous amount of computer power. That means huge data centers using tons of electricity, plus all the engineers and researchers to keep it all running.
Yeah, those costs don't usually make it into the big numbers companies like to show off.
Right. Lambert thinks DeepSeek's actual costs could be way higher, maybe hundreds of millions or even billions a year.
Right.
It raises questions about how transparent they're being.
It does make you wonder, why wouldn't they just be upfront about the real cost?
Well, maybe DeepSeek wants to seem really exclusive.
Okay.
By saying their tech costs a fortune, they create this image of like scarcity and value, almost like a luxury brand.
So it's not just about the tech, it's about looking like they're way ahead of everyone else, even if it costs more.
Exactly. And that might help them get investors and partners. It reinforces the idea that DeepSeek is doing something almost nobody else can do.
But then that lack of transparency also makes people suspicious, right?
Of course it does. People wonder, are they making the numbers sound bigger to scare off competition or to keep control of AI?
Interesting. And that's where what the Berkeley team did becomes even more important.
Absolutely.
It's not just about copying the tech, it's about challenging who has the power in AI. So if we believe what Lambert says, if developing AI actually costs less than what companies claim, what does that mean for the future of AI?
It could completely change the game. Imagine smaller companies, research labs, even individual developers could create advanced AI without needing huge amounts of money.
We could see so much more innovation. It's like opening the floodgates. Everyone could contribute, explore new ideas, push the limits of what's possible.
And all those different perspectives could lead to amazing discoveries, things we can't even imagine right now.
We could have AI solutions designed for specific communities,
Yeah.
local problems, niche applications,
Yeah.
things that big companies wouldn't even bother with because they're not focused on making money off of them.
Exactly. It's exciting to think about the ripple effects across different fields, but let's be realistic.
Okay.
This is still early research. It's one thing to copy parts of a bigger model,
Yeah.
but it's way harder to match everything DeepSeek's R1-Zero can do.
Right.
We can't ignore all the years of research expertise and data that DeepSeek has.
True. But the Berkeley team's work brings up some really important questions.
Yeah.
Like, how important is size really in AI development? Are we at a point where smaller, more focused models can do just as well or even better than these giant resource-hungry models in certain areas?
Those are the big questions researchers are trying to answer right now, and those answers could completely reshape how AI is developed in the coming years.
Feels like we're at a fork in the road, and this $30 experiment might be pointing us in a whole new direction for AI.
It definitely reminds us that you don't always need huge budgets and fancy equipment to innovate.
Yeah.
Sometimes limitations can actually spark creativity and lead to these unexpected breakthroughs.
So if we're going to zoom out, what could this research mean for different fields?
Okay.
You've talked about AI becoming more accessible and diverse,
Right.
but what would that actually look like in the real world?
Okay, well, let's take scientific research, for example.
Okay.
Imagine a world where any scientist anywhere can use powerful AI tools regardless of how much funding they have. It could completely change how we approach problems, speed up discoveries, and maybe even lead to breakthroughs in things like medicine materials, science, climate modeling.
Makes sense. And what about education? Personalized learning with AI has always seemed so promising,
Yeah.
but the cost has been a huge obstacle for a lot of schools and institutions.
Right.
Could this shift in AI development finally make that kind of individual learning experience a reality for more students?
Definitely imagine AI tutors that adjust to each student's learning style and pace, giving them personalized guidance and feedback.
Yeah.
It could make quality education available to everyone and help students from all backgrounds reach their full potential.
It's a powerful idea, and it's not just education and research.
Yeah.
Think about the impact on small businesses and entrepreneurs.
Right.
A lot of AI-powered tools for marketing, customer service, even product development. They're just too expensive for smaller companies right now.
Yeah.
But if the cost of developing and using these tools goes down significantly, it could level the playing field and allow smaller companies to compete with the big guys.
Exactly. We could see a boom in new businesses powered by AI, innovative products and services coming from places we'd never expect from people who didn't have the resources before to make their ideas happen.
It's a pretty amazing picture of the future AI not being this exclusive club anymore, but a force for good that everyone can benefit from.
Yeah.
It almost feels like a complete change in how we think about AI.
It really does have that potential, and that's what makes this research from the Berkeley team so important. It's not just about one specific achievement. It's about questioning the way things are and opening up possibilities that we thought were impossible.
So to wrap things up today, this deep dive has taken us from billion-dollar AI models to a $30 experiment. It might just be a glimpse into a very different future.
Yeah.
We've explored the idea of a more accessible and diverse AI world where innovation isn't limited by money, but by our own creativity and ingenuity.
And that brings us to the question we'll leave you with today. If developing AI becomes something anyone can do, what kind of innovations do you think we'll see? What problems could we solve? What amazing things could we achieve?
It's definitely worth thinking about because the future of AI might be closer than we realize, and it might be shaped by people like you.